If your relationship with your mom has always been hot and cold, filled with love and hate, confusing and frustrating, and at the same time filled with passion, connection, basically just a confusing relationship, then this video might help to explain. When a mother has ADHD, specifically undiagnosed ADHD, it can create so much misunderstanding in the family. Here are 14 signs that your mom has ADHD and the impact it had on you in your childhood. And after I share these 14 most common signs, I'm going to share 3 secret kind of signs that aren't really talked about so much, but they're 100% true of undiagnosed ADHD moms from my family and also others very close to me who are ADHD, but they didn't know this when they were mothers raising young children. Sign number 1, no consistent routine. ADHD can make it really difficult to establish routines and have consistency. So that means while other moms have a very strict routine, kid wakes up at 6 o'clock, has their first snack before 7, has their first nap by 9, blah, 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 blah. These sort of routines just does not work when you're a mother with ADHD. And the child of somebody like that is also affected with this inconsistency in routine. Sign number 2, chaotic mornings. If you remember growing up and mornings were just a disaster, you were always scrambling to find your backpack. Where is my lunchbox? Mom, I can't find my gloves, blah, 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 blah. And you're always kind of rushing out the door last minute. And often you're right on time for school or even late. This could be a big, big sign that your mom has ADHD, but she didn't know it. And of course, if she didn't know it, how are you supposed to know it? This happens because ADHD creates lack of executive function. That means when a person with ADHD has so many things to keep track of in their head, lunchbox, backpack, shoes, jackets, feed the kids, brush their teeth, send them out the door, it has to be at the right time. It is just too much for a person to handle who has ADHD, especially if they're not aware of it. Sign number 3, impulsive. For example, your mom might have suddenly out of the blue decided, okay, that's it, we're going to the playground. Just packed you up and forced you out the door. Or out of the blue, gathered you guys up, threw you in the car and drove to a relative's place without notice, without planning. This is a sign of high impulsivity, which is very, very common in adults with ADHD, also for kids with ADHD. Another sign is going suddenly with 2 days notice, you're on a plane and you're flying to some coastal beach or to your parents' country of origin in Asia or Africa or wherever. Sign number 4, missed appointments. That could be missed play dates, forgetting friends' birthdays and forgetting to take you to a birthday party, or missed doctor's appointments. Sign number 5, time management. Struggles with time management is common, and that is what causes that huge overwhelm in the mornings, missed deadlines, forgotten responsibilities, and this is highly, highly connected to time blindness. People with ADHD, specifically adults with ADHD, they just have a completely distorted sense of time. They think that something's going to take only 5 minutes to do, or it's going to take me only 15 minutes to get to my next appointment, but in reality, it takes half an hour. But people with ADHD just don't have that time concept. By the way, who am I to talk about this? I'm an adult, I'm a mom with ADHD, and I'm also on the autism spectrum. My name is Ritu, by the way, and on this channel, we talk about how you can be a great parent even with ADHD and autism and other mental health conditions. So if that's important to you, subscribe to this channel. Sign number 6, disorganization in the home or hoarding. Maybe growing up, your house was always just a mess. There were way too many things, laundry on the sofa, never folded, sink full of dishes, just complete chaos. This could be a sign of ADHD in your mom. Hoarding or not being able to let go of items is another sign. Sign number 7, stress and anxiety. When you're a parent with ADHD, you're constantly stressed and you're constantly anxious because a part of you realizes that you have really poor executive function. You're trying to get so many things done in the home, but you're just not being able to. And especially if you're undiagnosed, you have no idea why it's not working for you. That causes a lot of stress stress, and that causes a lot of anxiety, self-blame, guilt, and shame. So if your mom behaved with these presentations, then it could be because she's ADHD, but she just didn't know it when you were growing up. Sign number 8, emotional regulation. People with ADHD have a hard time regulating their emotions. So if you're a mom with ADHD, that might mean extreme mood swings, irritability, so your mom getting irritated at you for seemingly nothing, and difficulty managing stress. A lot of that naturally has a consequence, has an effect on you as her kid, and of course, her partner, which might be your dad. Sign number 9, rage. This could have been mom rage or ADHD rage. I made a whole video about ADHD rage and how that's very connected to mom rage, which I'll link to right here. Sign number 10, relationship strain. If you grew up feeling a lot of strain on the relationships in your home, in your family, this is caused by one person in this relationship network with a neurodivergence, with a mental health challenge. And that could have been your mom who has ADHD but just didn't know. All the challenges I mentioned before obviously have a consequence, have an effect on the strain it puts on the relationships that that person is involved in, between your mom and her partner, which might have been your dad or somebody else, between her and you, and also within your siblings and the family, and also within her siblings and her parents and her own family network. Sign number 11, you never learned organization skills from your parents because nobody taught them to you. How can somebody teach you good organization skills when they don't themselves have it? And not having that, what kind of emotional impact does it have on children, which is you? Speaking of organization skills, I forgot to ask you to give this video a like if you're finding this useful. It helps it reach other people just like you who might find this useful information. Sign number 12, you never learned emotional regulation because nobody taught it to you by example. Again, being ADHD, especially undiagnosed, not knowing that you're ADHD, causes a lot of confusion in the person itself. So your mom might have been confused and frustrated with herself that she's not able to regulate her own emotions. As a kid, when your example is a parent who is explosive or hot 1 minute, cold 1 minute, really happy and loving 1 minute, and then angry and irritated at you the next minute, then that's what you pick up subconsciously. That becomes your foundational programming. Sign number 13, rejection sensitivity. People with ADHD tend to be highly sensitive to rejection and criticism. So how this would have shown up in your mom who is ADHD but didn't know is that anytime you rejected something she offered, she took it very personally. Or anytime you said, "Mom, this food is there," she took it really personally, got hurt and retreated, maybe took the food away from the plate and be like, "I don't feel like giving you any dinner today," or exploded because she felt rejected. She got mad at you and she was like, "You're gonna eat whatever I put in front of you." This is driven by that rejection sensitivity. We tend to take it so personally when somebody else rejects our offering without putting it into context that it might have nothing to do with me. It just might be the other person's preferences. Sign number 14, PDA, pathological demand avoidance. That means often people with ADHD absolutely push back against any expectations or demands being put on them. We hate being told what to do. So your mom would have hated it when you're like, "Mom, you have to do that thing for me. Mom, you have to take me to the playground," or "Mom, you have to help me put my shoes on." She may have gotten very angry with you because she felt like you were demanding her to do something. Another sign of PDA is always wanting to do the absolute opposite of what somebody asked them to do. This may also have caused issues between your mom and her partner, which may have been your dad. Before I tell you the bonus signs that I have seen in my own family tree and also in close friends who only later found out that their moms are ADHD, is Let me just say, I work with parents just like you who are neurodivergent, meaning you are either ADHD or on the autism spectrum. And with my family constellation training, I help you to see how your parenting challenges didn't start with you. Maybe it's a part of your family's pattern, but that doesn't mean the cycle has to continue. And that doesn't mean you need to pass it down to your kids and to the future generations. You can break the cycle now. If you want to learn more about how this works, check out my website, neurodivergentmom.net. Okay, now some bonus signs that nobody really talks about, but I know from experience that this has to do with ADHD in a parent, especially if that parent doesn't know that they're ADHD. And the first is highly impulsive life decisions. So for example, your parent had the impulse that, oh, my friend's friend is really cute, I want to have an affair with her or him. And suddenly they have this impulsive affair. And that of course has consequences leading to divorce, whatever. And then an impulsive decision to remarry. So looking back in my family history and also others, very close people to me who only very late in their life realized that they're ADHD. Looking back and seeing that pattern, multiple relationships and multiple marriages. This can be and often is connected to ADHD and that high impulsive drive. The second bonus thing that might tell you your parent is ADHD but they didn't know is being bad with money. So if you grew up and your undiagnosed ADHD parent was always just bad with money, maybe they got a lot of money through their job or some investment or some gift, but then within a year or two they were back to zero or even negative. This constant struggle and being money just kind of disappearing, falling like sand through your fingers. This can be a sign of ADHD. And this has also to do with dyscalculia. I think that's how you pronounce it, dyscalculia, where people with ADHD don't really understand numbers so well. I have that. And finally, sign number 3 is sleep issues. If your parent was a night owl, going to bed at 1 or 2 a.m. and waking up at 10 or 11 a.m., it could be connected to ADHD. A lot of people on the ADHD spectrum, that's also a spectrum, have sleep problems. And in the worst case scenarios, this go as far as narcolepsy, where they're falling asleep really in dangerous situations. In the middle of a conversation, for example, in a job interview or something like that. And if you can think back to your childhood, was your parent kind of falling asleep or getting drowsy while they were trying to play with you or read you a book? This could be connected to ADHD, and I'll very quickly explain why. A person with ADHD has low stimulation in their frontal lobe, frontal cortex of their brain. So when they're reading a book to you, even though this might hurt your feelings to hear this now, but they just weren't being stimulated enough reading you a kid's book, a children's book. So their brain's frontal lobe is shutting down out of boredom and they're getting drowsy. So that's kind of what's happening behind the surface when a parent has ADHD and struggles with sleep problems. Do you think your mom is ADHD but she just didn't know? Share your childhood stories in the comments below because reading your story might help somebody else. And watch this video right here to find out if your parent may have been on the autism spectrum but just didn't know.